Yeah.
What up, y'all? It's me, your favorite internet roommate. You know, it breaks my heart that so many Zelda fans have not engaged with the Zelda manga. Goodness gracious. So I figure I do what I do best and just glaze Twilight Princess. Ha ha ha. You gonna make me act up. You gonna make me do the most misunderstood Zelda game. Some furries would even say the best Zelda game. It's me. I'm furries. I love Twilight Princess. Look at my browser theme. I got the Midna theme playing in the background. I got Midna, you know, being a baddie on my homepage. And just listen to my keyboard sounds. Sensational. That's right, y'all. We're sponsored by Opera GX. And I'm beyond hyped because one, it's free. And if you know anything about me, I am all about the aesthetics and personalization. I just hate how so much of modern tech and really everything has become so cold and corporate and bland. And you too could drop your boring browser and get a cool custom one like me by downloading Opera GX for free at operagx.gg/Internet Pitstop, which will be chilling in the description or the pinned comment below. You can change all the colors. You can even download full-on mods that completely change the theme of your browser. But you can easily find so many more. Just look at how many just Zelda ones there are here. And installing the mods is super simple too. I just literally click a button and boom, my background music is personalized. My opening and closing tabs are personalized. And the coolest thing is that you can actually mix and match all of these features. So if I want, I can have the Dark Souls wallpaper with some Dark Souls music, but I can keep those Midna voice lines from my keyboard. But even outside the personalization stuff, Opera GX has built-in AI tools that make your internet experience even easier. Just by highlighting a text, you can summarize an entire article. You can find related content, or you could just search that specific topic too, which keeps your experience streamlined and accessible while still looking and sounding as unique to you as you want. And honestly, the thing that made me really happy, because I was worried when I got this browser that because I liked it so much, I'd have to then, you know, move all my stuff over and it would take forever. But Opera GX also has that covered because they have it set up where you can easily just transfer all of your bookmarks, history, everything that was from your old browser to this one with a click of a button. No hassle at all, and once again, it is free. So yeah, if you're looking for a more cooler, unique browser experience, Opera GX gives us the ability to make these browsers our own personalized homes. So use my link in the description or pinned comment below so you too can have keyboard sounds like this. Thank you, Opera GX, and back to the video. But real Twilight Princess glazers won't just tell you that it's the best Zelda game, they'll also tell you it's the best Zelda manga. So we're gonna go ahead and glaze that manga today while avoiding any major plot spoilers. So if you haven't read it, don't worry, you can watch this, and I'm hoping that can convince you to read it. But if you are someone who has read it and you know, you're part of the pack, if you will, then you can just enjoy me glazing peak, and I actually got something for y'all at the end of the video. And please, if you have read it, go ahead and drop a comment that you are one of the true alpha wolves. And look, I think all the Zelda mangas are worth a read, but again, me? I think this isn't just the best Zelda manga, I think it's the best Zelda story you can't play. The Twilight Princess manga was written and illustrated by a lovely duo of ladies that go by A. Honda and S. Nagano, going under the pseudonym of Akira Himekawa. It was serialized in February 2016, the same year as albums like Blonde, Life of Pablo, The Sun's Tirade, A Seat at the Table, Malibu. It was a great year. It was a goated year. And we can't go without mentioning that it was 2 years before this that Jhene Aiko would create a cultural reset with the lyrics. And and he gotta eat the boot. This manga has about 58 chapters in the span of 11 volumes, which is way longer than any of the mangas before it, and this was intentional by Himekawa. Twilight Princess had a much more mature rating and story, and so they wanted their manga to reflect that in tone and scope. Okay, now that I've successfully paraphrased the Wikipedia article, it's time. Okay, so this manga is gorgeous, especially in the character art department. Himekawa worked on a few shoujo manga before this, and I think you see those roots all over this series. Both in how, okay, like, I mean, look how pretty my boy Link looks. You see what I mean? But even the way this shot is paneled is super shoujo. The character art includes a lot of angular, defined faces. Everyone's eyes are just big and twinkling and mesmerizing. Even Epona's got those really sweet, kind eyes. Ha ha ha. Everyone's hair is nice and flowy. Basically, everyone's face card in this manga never declines. Never. If you thought a character was pretty in the game, they look even more stunning in this manga. Look at Zelda, look at Ilya, even the human characters who at times in the game could look a little, like this dude's face looks like the human face version of like the inside of an ear, but here he looks normal. And look, I don't know how they did it, but somehow they even made Midna.
Baby, I'm playing on you tonight.
Have y'all seen my anime backgrounds video? If you have,
Let's just, wow.
it was kind of hard to keep reading the manga because I just kept flipping back to these pages to just bask. I want to appreciate her, I want to protect her and call her kitten. I want to write fan fiction about her where she's completely obsessed with a character who totally isn't my self-insert OC. But I couldn't waste all my time looking at Midna. I had to, read the rest of the manga. It's like my job or something, I don't know.
They'll never know what it's like.
And I think this art style works beautifully for the more sweet, wholesome, comforting moments of the early parts of the manga and game, Like, there were so many moments in the, Ordon village when Link is just, spending time with the kids and the villagers that just had me audibly... Duh. The art could be so wholesome and sweet and give me that warm, fuzzy feeling in my butt. Like, I too just want to lay on this grassy hill with my boy Link and just... take it all in, But the art style is also very expressive. So there's those moments where things get real, silly and goofy and jokey. And Link will make some silly, endearing facial expressions. And there's also a lot of great background illustrations. I was floored at times by just how masterfully Himekawa could just bring these places from TP to the page. And I think we can actually take a moment to just kind of wow at these too. So let's do that. But much like how the Twilight Princess game expertly balances a twilight of tones, having super lighthearted, goofy moments and some of the darkest shit in any Zelda game, this manga also reflects this twilight of tones in the art. I guess you could say that widowy Twilight Princess has a bit of a dark side. As you will see, this manga's art go from the most shoujo, goofy, silly, heartwarming shit ever to, fucking berserk. Look at this shit. It's going full seinen. Like, legit, there is a whole part of the manga that just feels like its version of the Eclipse. Well, except for, the really bad part of the Eclipse, you know what I mean? It's definitely inspired. You can tell by the tone and the art and what happens. It's great. Look at my boy Link right here. He's looking like a whole ass JoJo character. Never thought I'd see my guy like this. And that goes to show Himekawa's great ability at making expressive faces. Because they can give you these gorgeous ass faces and these really silly faces. And this. What the f? This manga is great, especially at depicting the horror of the monsters of the Twilight realm. Usually colored in, of course, a heavy black. Their skin almost looks like it's oozing and melting off the page. They're gruesome, they're terrifying. Like, look at this spread page right here. Like that shit is crazy to just see Zelda in general with this art. And because Twilight Princess is a lot darker and more mature toned game, the manga can also depict a lot more darker moments. And honestly, some of the illustrations here depict things that are darker than any Zelda game has ever shown. Even the moments it's directly referencing from the game are done with a lot more gruesomeness and darkness here. Like seeing Link turn into a wolf in the manga looks way more brutal and just painful. There's this gnarly visual of Twilight Beast actually turning a human into one of them. You'll see someone get completely impaled and like have their body in the mouth of a boblin. There's also a lot of great brutal depictions of body horror. I don't think I can even show you what's happening to Ganondorf's face here without getting demonetized. Like, I never thought I would have to actually blur something Zelda related. You know what I mean? They even somehow made the Yetta moment even more nightmare fuel. Look at this. Like, honestly, if you're a Berserk fan, there's a lot of Berserk influence and DNA in this manga. Read this shit, man. Read this shit. And as just a final showing of the artistic beauty of this manga, I want to show you one of my favorite visual sequences. It's a moment that also happens in the game, so don't worry, no spoilers. So during the carriage chase moment, aka the most annoying bullshit, harder than going to sleep at 3 a.m. because IG reels are just hitting at that particular time, mission in the whole game, Link is doing his thing, you know, protecting Ilia and company in the carriage, but then they have to stop and actually set up camp because the sun's going down. But then, again, some Berserk type shit ensues. Monsters show up and Link has to fight them all night with no sleep. The sun rises and you think there's like a moment of reprieve. They try to go check on Link to see how he's doing, but just then, even more enemies are coming. A bunch of shit happens and it ends up where Ilia is all alone with the monster. And the monster is attempting to take Ilia. And as that's happening, Ilia starts to recall her traumatic memories of when she was taken the first time. Paralyzed with fear, she doesn't want to see anything, hear anything, feel anything. And thus, because of these feelings, the art reflects it by the background getting darker and darker to the point of almost engulfing Ilia. But then she hears another voice, a familiar voice, and you notice the dark background beginning to brighten behind her, and then we're met with this shot. God, yeah.
Let's just wow.
And look, I'm not saying this because on a technical level, this is the most like impressive art here. No, there's way more technically impressive moments throughout this manga than this. But I picked it for the way that the art and the paneling just invokes this feeling in me. But I think that's enough talking about the art. Let's talk a little bit about Silly Willies on my Discord were saying that Peekaboo is the worst song on GNX. Blasphemy.
A helping hand.
What they talking about? They ain't talking about nothing. What they talking about? They ain't talking about nothing. What they talking about? They ain't talking about nothing. What they talking about? They ain't talking about nothing. Pickable, I just put them bookers in my chain. Pickable, 80 pointers like a pickable. I just put them bookers in my chain. Pickable, 80 pointers like a Kobe game. Pickable, 7.62s, I make them plank. Pickable, what they talking about? They ain't talking about nothing. What they talking about? They ain't talking about nothing. What they talking about? They ain't talking about nothing. What they talking about?
Now, if you're a huge fan of the characters and story of the Twilight Princess game, then this manga will become your very new hyperfixation. Because while yes, it does roughly cover the plot of the game, it goes so much more in depth in both the little and big things, and even adds so many new great and engaging elements that had just my willy going silly. In fact, the very first thing that I'd say endeared me to the manga was actually Link's character. Not only just because he can speak, but also his personality, his expressiveness. Like, they could have easily went the route of making Link the cool, kind of stoic, talks, but still barely talks, kind of badass character. But instead, he's more this, like, endearing, kind of silly, like, jokey kind of character that still upholds a lot of responsibility and courage and strength. I found him to be immediately very likable and endearing. And they really make you just love his relationship with the Ordon kids, which is also in the game, but just not into the same depth. But here, I really believe this older brother relationship he has with all these kids. I really understand and empathize with Link and how much he loves Ordon and the people from there and why he sees it as home. Where a lot of people had problems with the game's intro being super long to kind of endear you to Ordon, I like that the manga focuses a good amount of time to flesh out his life here, because it makes those later moments hit even harder. Himekawa even gives Link a backstory that's completely unique to anything in the game, which itself throughout the manga leads into this great, fulfilling, powerful arc about learning what it really means to be a hero and to have courage, you know, the themes of Zelda. And the biggest strength of this manga's story, much like the game itself, is the characters. But to a whole different level, because there's a lot of more focus on the side characters, which I liked a lot of the side characters in the Twilight Princess game, but felt they could have used a lot more time and development. There are so many cool characters in Twilight Princess that I would have loved to see get fleshed out, and this manga actually does that. The side characters are given so much more presence in the story here. Going back to feeling endeared by the parts in Ordon, in the game, I only really felt connected to Colin, but this manga makes you appreciate Ordon Village and all the people there and all the kids so much more. Like Russell, for example, who at the beginning of the game feels kind of important, but nothing about him really matters after that. But in the manga, he really embodies and he feels like that mentor, older father figure to Link that he's supposed to be. Ilia, very ironically, is kind of forgotten about halfway through the game, but she has far more presence all throughout this manga. Here, she isn't just the childhood friend who forgot her memory. She's someone with her own goals and aspirations, and you really care about her a lot more and what she wants to do. And really that goes for like every character in this manga. For example, almost every time that Link is going to explore a dungeon, he's usually accompanied by a side character. And there's always a little great moment between Link and that side character, and the side character getting their own little moment. And even if it is just a small moment, it does so much more to make each of these characters feel more real. Like, I forgot this little girl existed in the game. But here, I absolutely love her and her little, like, uncle friendship family with the Gorons. You also get a lot more downtime with just Link and Midna kind of chilling by a bonfire in the middle of their adventure, which of course is something you can't really get as much in the game, which is why I find it so valuable here, giving them more quality time to bond. Like, I'm pretty sure every Twilight Princess fan liked the Resistance, thought they were cool, wish they did more, especially Ashe, cause like, look at her. That's a really cool character design, you know? But in the manga, she feels much more like an actual character. The manga takes time to talk a little bit about her past and even give her some really cool action moments with Link. All of this focus and development on the side characters and Link's relationship to them gave the story such a deeper emotional connection. So when you get these moments like this one, you just feel it, you get it, and you want to cry. And as like a final cool thing about this manga and the way it uses the Zelda's lore and story, if you are someone in the Zelda fandom who super hyper fixates on like the timeline and the like reincarnation cycle of Zelda, Link, and Ganondorf, then, without spoiling too much, this manga has you covered. You will love this manga, which ultimately is what makes me so happy about the storytelling of this manga. Because I've always felt, especially with the whole timelines, reincarnations, like all those things, that the Zelda team has never really used it that much in their stories in the games. Like, it's usually there as context, or at the most it's been used was like in Twilight Princess with having the hero shade as, you know, Ocarina Link. But it always felt like they kind of just flirted with these ideas. They never really use them as a full way to tell the Zelda story. And the manga does that in such a great way. Now, unfortunately, I do have to admit that, the Twilight Princess isn't a perfect work of art. No! Like with any art, I do think it's important to mention that there are some flaws that I felt came up to me, at least when I was reading this manga. One of the first little gripes I had with this manga was I kind of feel like the dungeon exploring part of it was just kind of speed ran through. Like almost every time that Link went into one of the dungeons, you get maybe a 1 or 2 establishing shots of the dungeon, which is nice, but then after that it's like straight to the boss. There isn't really any dungeon exploring, which I do understand if you are at a limitation of how many chapters and volumes you can get. It does make sense if you are going to shorten a part of the Zelda world. I do understand picking the dungeon exploring as that thing you decide to cut out a little bit. And also maybe reading about someone solving a puzzle in a dungeon isn't as interesting as solving a puzzle in a game. But I do feel we could have at least had just a little bit more of maybe like Link exploring the dungeon itself, maybe falling through a trap, maybe fighting some enemies, and also more usage of the items that were connected to these dungeons, as that doesn't really come into play a lot either. We don't get the iron boots, we don't get the spinner, we don't get the Dominion rod. Like when Link explores the Arbiter's Grounds, which is one of my favorite dungeons in probably the entire series, it's once again just kind of an establishing shot at the outside, an establishing shot at the inside, and then boom, Link starts fighting Demon Sword, and then Demon Sword's beaten in a few pages, and then right after that, Link is fighting Star-Lord, and then he beats him in like a page or 2, which is really unfortunate considering that's one of the most interesting, best bosses of the series, I think, and he's kind of done away with in this manga in just a page or 2. The only real dungeons I feel were done justice were the mansion and the city in the sky. In the city in the sky, we get a little bit of time with the Uku and the enemies there, and Link does actually use the double hook shot, which is great. Which kind of goes into my next flaw with the manga, and that's the combat. Don't get me wrong, it's drawn well, and there's some really great impact hype moments, but I do feel that a lot of the fights feel kind of rushed also. Like I said earlier, Star-Lord is defeated in like a page or 2. While it does have some amazing moments, like of course the final fight with Ganondorf, or even the boss fight in the City in the Sky, but outside of a few, I'd say most of the combat parts of the manga aren't as prevalent and impactful as I feel they should be. And so the final flaw I have with the manga is that while I do think Himekawa did a great job at translating the Twilight Princess moments in this manga, to the point where I prefer the way a scene was handled in this manga than even in the game. There are times though when a change was made to an iconic moment from Twilight Princess the game where I really think it's completely unnecessary. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not like the moments themselves were ruined, but just more like sometimes things are so iconic that they probably shouldn't be touched. Okay, now, that is the spoiler-free part of this video. If you have not read this manga, please, please, please go read this manga and come back to this point of the video and comment down just how peak your reading experience was. From here, I'm going complete spoilers. I'm talking about my favorite section of this manga. This part of the video is only for my true alpha wolves. Let me hear the howl. Holy shit, like that whole arc of Link, you know, getting a glimpse of the Twilight Mirror, and he basically gets like the symbiote, and he's on that Spider-Man 3 timing on some "they love me." He's all prideful and talking with all this self-importance. Midna pieces out because she sees that bro is feeling himself a little too much. That fucking panel where it's all dark and he's like, I guess a hero must go at it alone. And then the part after that where he's really feeling his power, and this motherfucker one-man armies all those fucking enemies like he's on Madara timing, just dog walking all these enemies. But then bro starts feeling himself again. He's asking for more and more power. He's literally personifying that concept of the power of the Twilight being able to corrupt somebody. Bro starts looking like he's from a whole other manga. And then there's that whole point where he's like whooping King Boblin's sorry ass. And he starts talking about valuing the power of strength more so than protecting others. And then in that moment, it's right when Shadow Link pulls up. And the like touching of the shoulder while pointing it. Bro, it's JoJo posing on him. He looks like a JoJo stand. And that whole fight sequence they have is it's so JoJo. Like when I saw this shit with the hand, like, bro. And the fight is great and totally in lore. They start mirroring each other and shit. But then it goes full JoJo when Link stabs him and he's like, I got your ass. But he looks, and then he's bleeding. And then he looks again and he's like, oh shit, now I'm Shadow Link. And then Shadow Link is looking like real Link, and he points at him and calls him an imposter, and then turns out he was the one that was stabbed the whole like don't get me wrong, it's cool how in the game the fights with Shadow Link are usually shown as like this him being a mirror to Link's attacks, which is done here. But then taking that to that mental level of literally like Link not knowing who he is, because that is literally what Shadow Link is, the shadow of the hero. And because Link is losing himself during this fight, it's personified as this thing where he's not sure if he's the one who's Shadow Link or he isn't. And Himekawa using that to make this like psychological JoJo battle it's so genius. It's so well done. I was floored and like so excited while reading this section. And then Link starts fucking tweaking. Zant shows up and starts laughing at him all disrespectfully. And then Link can't use his sword, and they start doing my boy so dirty. Look at the way they got my boy looking. Bro, I know it's a joke, but that whole like Tom Holland playing Link thing, I never want to see that. I think that shit's cursed. Please don't make that happen. But if they're recreating the story of this manga, he might be the perfect person for the role, because they got my boy looking just like him, if you remember what I'm talking about. And this is where the Berserk fan in me starts screaming like a little girl, because Ocarina of Time Link breaks through the fucking, what was basically the eclipse, the like pitch black area, basically being Skull Knight and attacking Zant and then taking Link on his back and riding off out of there just like Skull Knight. And the peak sequence just keeps going chapter after chapter, because then we get this whole little vignette arc with this little shed in this little abandoned village. This little girl is here helping Link get his strength back, but Shadow Link keeps showing up as like this nightmare who is like Link's shadow, his like dark thoughts. And Dark Link starts talking about how he's owed respect and praise. And then Link's like, no, I don't think these things. It's so good, bro. It's so good. Zelda has never told stories like this, where we get into the head of the hero and the struggles of this power and responsibility. It's like they took that really creepy cutscene from the game and what it means, that idea of like how the power of Twilight is so powerful it can even corrupt the hero. And they took that and they just turned it into an entire arc. Again, in that game cutscene, it was powerful because we see Link like struggle, almost getting taken over and corrupted, but he snaps out of it. It feels more human, it feels powerful, it's great. But here, that idea is fully fleshed out. You see Link actually experience that as an arc. And after that, Link starts feeling like he's weak and he has no value because he can't use the Master Sword. Only for then Ocarina of Time Link to show up looking like this spooky hooded Reaper figure to spit some wisdom. Basically to tell Link that it's not the Master Sword that makes the hero. It's the hero who makes the magic. It's once again a personification of the line. A sword wields no strength unless the hand that holds it has courage. He's telling Link that he doesn't get the freedom to decide whether or not he has the right to be the hero. It's bigger than him. He tells Link to look through his past and shows him how for a while he was fighting with this resentment about wanting status and fame and to be this like a great knight for the royal family. And he guides him to how he can become a true hero. And then we get, on a technical level, some of the best art this entire manga has. Oh my god. I know I wasn't the only one who was just like stuck on this page of Ocarina of Time Link going from like his younger self to a really old version and then to a complete skeleton. Yo. And I love the whole part where Ocarina of Time Link tells Twilight Princess Link to basically see suffering as company and unease and fear as friends. Because then and only then will darkness become light. Basically telling him he must burden responsibility to a higher degree than everyone else. Because the Triforce chose him to be the hero. No matter how much troubles knock him down, he has to choose to get back up. And this part only gets better as after this motivational talk, Link then literally uses that advice to help someone in need with this little girl, Akina. That whole part where he like sees her crying in front of all those gravestones, and he just, without any words, empathetically consoles her. And again, this is a whole new character, this little girl, and I absolutely love her. I think for just this little moment she has, it's so great. It's such an amazing part of this manga. Hearing her harrowing story about how her whole village was wiped out by the shadow beasts, and she single-handedly went ahead and made graves for everyone in her village, her own family. And I love that little exchange where, you know, her, because she's probably feeling a lot more hopeless, tells Link that he shouldn't fight anymore, he should hide, that there's no point in continuing to fight. But Link, of course, because he is showing the power of courage, disagrees. And makes it clear that he has to fight, but not for status or the royal family, but specifically for people like Akina. He wants to honor all of those villagers that are buried right now. He can't give up as long as there's a single life to save in Hyrule. And once again, to show Link's character arc and how he's come to understand the power and importance of courage, he praises Akina for having the bravery and courage to actually stay in her village and bury all of her family and friends and the other villagers. Which Link can relate to her story, as he also lost his whole village. But in comparison, he completely ran away. And that whole beautiful passage where he's telling Akina that strength alone is not what makes a hero, but it's what Akina did, that showing of bravery, that makes her greater than any hero, no matter the feats. And then the whole section ends with Link once again showing his ability to be empathetic and help someone, as Akina is crying and mentioning how she hasn't cried this much in a while. And he reassures her by telling her that she's been alone for so long and been holding it in for so long, and now someone is here with her, and now she can cry a year's worth of tears. It's beautiful. It's amazing. Oh my god. All of this was new material added to this manga, and yet it completely understands and embodies the themes of courage, the themes of Zelda. It uses the Zelda lore in ways that the games just never really have. And that is why it is the best Zelda story you can't play. Thank you so much for deciding to light your bonfire here on this little corner of the internet. If you like what you saw today, you can give me a like and a subscribe. I would always appreciate that, and it genuinely helps the channel. And also, if you're a new viewer and you like me talking about Zelda, I have 2 other Zelda videos that you might really enjoy, me talking about the Twilight Princess game, and also me talking about the atmosphere of Zelda. Check those videos out if you are interested, or if you want to support me the best way you can and make sure this little guy keeps getting good doggy treats. You can do that as little as 3 beans on my Patreon. There's going to be a link in the description, and there's probably going to be one that pops up right here at the top. I don't know, but there you go. And while you're on there, if you are an absolutely insane person, you absolutely love me, like all these people that you see around here, you can join my highest tier on Patreon, which if you do, you get one of these pixel art characters that shows up at the end and kind of throughout my videos you might have seen. It also comes with a lot of other perks, extra videos, what we call a study stream, where basically once a week I do a private stream with that tier of people where I basically show you the process of, you know, making a video or making a thumbnail or just behind the scenes of what I do. Once again, if any of that sounds interesting, it's in the description. Thank you very much. But with all that being said, thank you so much for coming to this little pit stop on the corner of the internet. Peace.